How does it feel to burn for 300 years? Lilith. Lucifer's voice was a low velvet hum, a sound that could rustle the wings of 1,000 damned souls with its sheer boredom. I was supposed to be a broken thing, a wisp of smoke and memory. But 3 centuries of uninterrupted agony had a way of sharpening a person's wit. Or at least their sarcasm. "It's warm," I replied, my own voice a simple, sarcastic whisper from deep in my non-existent throat. I wasn't lying. Compared to the betrayal and pain inflicted by the ignorant villagers 3 centuries ago, the sting of every lie, the bite of every false prayer, the fires of hell were nothing more than a minor discomfort, a pleasant distraction, really. They used their ignorance to push me into this abyss, and in return, I learned how to truly manipulate a human mind. A fair trade, I suppose. He chuckled, a dry, rattling sound like bones in a sack. The mortal world is lacking quality souls lately, specifically those with a special kind of deep-seated sin, the kind worth collecting. This was why he sought me out, not for my loyalty, but for my particular brand of cynicism. I was a connoisseur of human weakness. "The reward?" I asked, my voice devoid of hope or expectation. I knew better than to trust a devil, but I also knew how to play a hand. He replied, "Freedom." "Deal." I didn't hesitate. The word was a lock, turning, a key snapping into place. The chains of fire that bound my soul to this place would finally fall away. Or so I believed. The next thing I knew, my consciousness was a mist, a ghost in a machine. I opened my eyes and was met with the smell of antiseptic and decaying flowers. No, this wasn't hell. It was a hospital room. A modern one, by the look of it. What a marvel! They had machines that went beep boop and lights that didn't require me to start a fire. Amusing. My consciousness settled inside another person's body. I felt her anguish, a soul-shattering despair born of betrayal. I saw her hands, frail and pale, trembling as she brought a bottle of sleeping pills to her lips. This was my first target, Claire, a brilliant young pharmacist, driven to the brink by her boyfriend and best friend. They had stolen her life's work, her research, and left her with nothing but a broken heart and a bottle of pills. What a quaint little tragedy. I couldn't help but feel a flicker of contempt. For what ails the human soul, these mortals now rely on bottles of pills instead of a good old-fashioned revenge. What utterly primitive, my soul whispered with a tinge of contempt. I tried to take control of her body, but her despair was so potent I could barely move. I spoke to her soul. "You think death is a solution? No, my dear, it is only the beginning of hell." My voice, my true voice, filled the space around her soul. It was a cold, commanding hum that ripped through her thoughts. I immediately unleashed a power I had learned from Lucifer. Claire's soul appeared before me, terrified. I used my will to create a vision. Flames erupted from the depths of hell, consuming the room. Her clothes disintegrated, the heat sizzled on her skin, and she screamed in agony. "If you kill yourself, this is what will await you. You will be tortured for 300 years, day and night, without end. The pain will be 1,000,000,000 times worse than this moment." Claire's soul twisted and writhed in the flames, trying to escape, but she was powerless. Just as her soul was about to be completely consumed, I retracted my power, and the illusion vanished. Claire's soul collapsed before me, weak and trembling. She gasped for air, her eyes wide with unimaginable terror. "Now," I asked, my tone a cold clinical inquiry, "do you still wish to die?" She shook her head wildly, her entire body shaking. "Good," I said with a sneer. "Death is not an escape, but the beginning of another punishment. You're going to give up because of a boyfriend and a best friend? My dear, this is the most boring, ancient trick in the book." My voice became seductive, a whisper of power and poison. "I can help you get revenge. I can make them pay for what they did. As a trade, you will let me use your body as a vessel for my vengeance." I held up the bottle of pills that had fallen to the floor, transforming them into a black flame that danced in my palm. A mortal poison in the hands of a hellish witch. A fitting irony. "Do you accept this deal?" Claire's soul trembled, and then nodded. And with that, I Lilith returned to the mortal world. I felt a strange yet familiar sensation, the warmth of blood flowing through veins, the weight of muscle and bone. Claire's body was a bit softer than my own 3 centuries ago, which took some getting used to. I imagined that 300 years of fire might do a number on a woman's complexion, but at least I didn't have to deal with corsets and petticoats. This was an upgrade. I slowly opened my eyes. A blinding white light forced me to squint. I heard a steady beeping and a young woman's gasp. "She's awake! Doctor, she's awake!" A middle-aged man in a white coat hurried over. He shined a light into my eyes and said to the nurse, "It's a miracle. After that much of a dose, it's a miracle she woke up so soon." A miracle? My mind scoffed. They had a very limited understanding of the word. If they had seen how I conjured the flames of hell, they wouldn't be so surprised. When the doctor asked for my name, Claire's mind went blank. No, not my mind, but hers. I couldn't find any memories of her boyfriend, her best friend, or her research. My soul felt a jolt, followed by a cold, amused smirk. An unexpected gift. I didn't need to feign madness. Her mind was a blank slate. The doctors attributed my amnesia to the overdose. They explained the situation to Ethan and Sophia. When the two arrived, their initial shock quickly turned into undisguised relief. "Claire, do you remember me?" Ethan held my hand with a look of feigned concern. I stared at him blankly and shook my head. "I'm Ethan, your boyfriend." A flicker of glee flashed in his eyes, but it was quickly masked. "I love you so much. Do you remember our lab, our work, our life together?" I just stared blankly, saying nothing. His acting was decent, but his joy was cheaper than his cologne. I felt his inner excitement. He saw this as a perfect opportunity to rewrite the past and portray himself as the hero, a devoted boyfriend who stayed by his girl through her troubles. My soul sneered. Villains? They were the worst kind. They thought I was truly a blank slate, but I knew the game had just begun. I would use this body to lead this couple step by step into the abyss of hell. Ethan was so eager to get me out of the hospital and back to Claire's lavish apartment. He was a doting boyfriend, buying me new clothes and a new phone, taking me to fancy restaurants. Everything Claire used to like was replaced by what he thought I would like. "This is all a testament to our love, Claire," he'd say with a practiced smile. "Just focus on getting better and forgetting the bad things." My soul scoffed. He thought that by erasing Claire's memories, he could erase his crimes. He saw this as a chance to be the hero in his own story, the one who stood by his girl through her troubles. But his performance was getting on someone else's nerves. That evening, as Ethan was making dinner, his phone rang. He glanced at the screen, his face instantly souring. He walked out onto the balcony to answer. "What do you want, Sophia?" His voice was low and filled with impatience. "What do I want?" Sophia's enraged whisper carried to me, filled with jealousy. "You're taking this too far. I saw the handbag you bought her. That's the one I've been wanting. Did you forget that all of this was for me?" Ethan's voice grew colder. "Don't forget, Sophia. This is all part of the plan. We need her to be gone for good, and this is the safest way. Do you want her to recover and tell everyone what we did?" "You can fool her, but you can't fool me." Sophia's voice trembled with anger. "I see the way you smile at her, the way you buy her gifts, the way you cook for her. You never did any of that for me." Ethan's eyes turned to ice. "Don't forget who made the first move. If she ever gets her memory back, you'll be the first person she wants to get revenge on." Their heated argument was music to my ears. Their trust, a fragile piece of glass, was shattering. Seeing them tear each other apart with jealousy and suspicion, I felt a familiar thrill. They thought I was a naive toy for them to play with, but they didn't know that I had returned from hell, and they didn't know that their fix was actually the switch to my slow-acting poison. I looked at Ethan's perfect fake face. How amusing this game is. He thought he was rewriting my history, but little did he know he had already started writing the darkest chapter of his own soul. The next afternoon, Ethan returned to the living room, his perfect boyfriend facade back in place. He looked at me with what he hoped were loving eyes. I said in Claire's confused voice, "Can I go see that room?" I pointed to the lab. Ethan's face froze for a split second before he plastered on an encouraging smile. "Of course, my dear. It was your favorite place." I walked into the futuristic lab. To a pharmacist from the 17th century, everything was new and exciting. The complex instruments, the precise gauges, they thrilled me. These people thought their science was advanced, but to me, their technology was just a way to simplify complex processes into a few button presses. It was like a master sorceress laughing at an apprentice who only knew how to use a spellbook. I picked up the recipe that Ethan and Sophia had stolen. My soul recoiled in disgust. They had stolen a half-finished product, a recipe filled with fatal flaws. They didn't even know that what they had stolen was just a broken blueprint. I walked around the lab pretending to aimlessly mix some reagents and then dump them out. Ethan and Sophia watched me, amused, thinking I was just playing. How ironic, my soul scoffed. They thought I was playing in the mud, but they had no idea I was brewing the deadliest poison for them. I picked up a test tube and mixed a colorless liquid with a clear powder. Instantly, the solution glowed with a faint light. It was a specific chemical reaction that only I knew. I found something," I said in Claire's surprised voice. Ethan and Sophia rushed over, their faces a mix of confusion and excitement. What found, Claire?" Ethan asked, pretending to be gentle. I held out the test tube to him with an innocent look. I don't remember where I wrote this down, but if you add this to the recipe, the drug's stability will be much better. Look, it glows." Sophia's face fell. She eyed me with suspicion, as if she were trying to figure out my intentions. Ethan pushed her hand aside and took the test tube. He saw the faint glow and his eyes filled with greed. What is this?" he asked cautiously. "I don't know," I said in Claire's confused tone. "I just felt that this is where it belonged." That night, Ethan and Sophia argued in the study for over an hour about the test tube I had given them. What if it's a trap? Is she really an amnesiac? Sophia's voice was filled with doubt and fear. Don't you feel like she's changed? Like she's a different person? Don't be stupid, Sophia. Ethan's voice was a low growl, but it couldn't hide his excitement. The doctor said the overdose caused temporary amnesia. She's just a broken toy. We'll just use her. But the stuff she gave you. I know. Ethan interrupted, his voice filled with impatience. This stuff makes the recipe more stable. That's what we need. Do you know what this means? It means we can launch the drug 6 months early and make millions. We don't have to wait and worry about any flaws. Sophia was silent, clearly tempted. Besides, this is our fail-safe. If something goes wrong with our drug, we can blame everything on her. She's an amnesiac. No one will believe her. So, we're adding this to our recipe? Sophia finally gave in, her voice filled with a mix of excitement and desperation. Of course. Ethan's mouth twisted into a triumphant smirk. He took my gift as if it were a treasure. I lay in bed, feeling their greedy souls being consumed by the trap I had laid. They thought they were rewriting my history, but they had already begun writing the darkest chapter of their own. This game truly was amusing. For the next few months, Ethan and Sophia were a whirlwind of activity. They added my gift, the doctored recipe, to their new drug. They hired new lab assistants and pushed for rapid clinical trials. I was held captive in the apartment, a princess in a tower, but also a carefully watched experiment. Ethan would come to me daily to report on their progress, his face brimming with pride. Our drug passed all the tests. Claire, do you know how crazy this is? We're going to be so successful. He'd hug me, his fake affection making me sick to my stomach. I knew the tests only proved the drug's short-term perfection. They only focused on stability and efficacy, ignoring the hidden time bomb I had embedded, a neurotoxin that would only show effects after long-term use. Their arrogance and lust for power blinded them to everything but what they wanted to see. Their new drug was named Elysium, which means paradise. The irony was not lost on me. Elysium was launched at a grand press conference. I sat in the VIP section, watching Ethan and Sophia bask in the spotlight. They were hailed as pharmaceutical geniuses, and their faces were on every magazine cover. They thought they were the winners of life's lottery. Sophia, in a lavish gown, watched Ethan proudly give his speech. Her eyes held a flicker of jealousy, pride, and anxiety. She would occasionally glance at me with a complex look, as if questioning if this was all real. I watched them like two puppets dancing in the fire. They thought they were pulling the strings of fate, but they had no idea that hell's opening act had just begun. Elysium quickly took the markets by storm, bringing Ethan and Sophia immense fame and wealth. They threw a grand celebration, inviting all the big names in the medical community. I was there, Ethan's mysterious girlfriend. At the party, everyone praised their new drug, but I saw a small crack begin to form. I overheard Ethan arguing with a young lab assistant in a corner. "Sir, I already told you, our data shows a few patients are experiencing mild hallucinations after taking the drug. This is a very serious issue. I've backed up all the evidence. If you don't do something, I will go to the media," the assistant said with anxious resolute. Are you crazy?" Ethan's face turned pale. "Do you know who you're talking to?" My soul felt a wave of satisfaction. The first domino had fallen, and it was even more amusing than I had anticipated. Then, in Claire's voice, I said to Sophia with a confused tone, I think I have a headache. Is it because I haven't been taking the medicine?" Sophia's face went white. She looked at me with a hint of terror. She thought I was hinting at something, but I was simply stating a fact. She didn't know I had stopped taking the useless medication months ago, and I was waiting for my poison to take effect. She grabbed my hand in a panic and dragged me away. "Ethan, she says she has a headache." "It has nothing to do with the drug," he said in a furious whisper. "It's because of her memory. Stop talking about it. She'll be fine." They thought this was a simple side effect, but I knew it was an invitation to hell. Soon, more people would experience the heavenly bliss that their drug promised, and by then, they would truly understand that hell had only just begun. A week later, calls and emails flooded Ethan and Sophia's office. It wasn't just a few isolated cases anymore. Doctors and pharmacists from all over the world were reporting similar symptoms: anxiety, insomnia, hallucinations, and even violent tendencies. The perfect smiles on Ethan and Sophia's faces cracked. They argued day and night, blaming each other. "This is all your fault. Why did you trust that amnesiac freak?" Sophia shrieked, her eyes bloodshot. "Who was it who said this was a failsafe? That we could blame everything on her if something went wrong?" Ethan threw documents across the room. "What do we do now? All the evidence points back to our lab. We're the enemy of the public." They no longer pretended to be perfect partners. Their fear was the sharpest blade, severing the last threads of their trust. I sat in the living room watching the news. It showed a warning about Elysium's side effects and reported that a young lab assistant had died in a tragic accident. The terror on people's faces was far more real than the ignorant rage of the villagers 300 years ago. "This is not a meaningless gesture," my soul whispered. It was to make them understand that the sins they had committed would be repaid, and I would be a witness to their punishment. Ethan and Sophia descended into madness. To cover their sins, they chose the most foolish and self-destructive path. They decided to destroy evidence. They broke into their old lab, trying to get rid of all the documents and data related to Elysium. But they didn't know that I had already mastered true magic in hell. All of the data had already been duplicated to a place only I could access. As they were fleeing, the police were waiting outside. They weren't just there for the drug incident. They were there for murder. The police arrested them in the lab. As the handcuffs were put on, their fake smiles were gone. They were left with nothing but pure terror, anger, and despair. They looked at me, their eyes filled with disbelief. They couldn't understand how a crazy amnesiac could have led them to this. I just stood there, wearing an innocent smile, watching them. I took Claire's body back to her apartment. I could feel her soul. Her despair had been replaced with joy and relief. She had witnessed her revenge, and she knew her torment was over. "You are free now, Claire," I said to her soul. "From this moment on, your life will not be defined by anyone else. You are no longer a victim. You are a survivor of this revenge." Claire's soul was filled with gratitude. She nodded. My body began to weaken. It was the contract. My soul was to return to hell to await my next task.
Thanks for watching. Stay tuned, our next story is coming soon.